welcome to another episode of the Bottom of the Stream Movie Show. My name is Adam.
My name's Nick. Welcome back to the movie show from Bottom of the Stream. This is the time of the week where we troll the Netflix stream looking for a hidden gem of a movie.
We do indeed. This is what made us famous.
You can tell your friends about and recommend.
Or not.
Sometimes we find one.
Yep.
And a lot of times we absolutely don't. But they're still fun to talk about.
The worst movies are sometimes the better ones to talk about.
Indeed.
So let's see what we've got this week.
Let's see.
This week, out of the randomizer, it wasn't out of the randomizer, it was a wildcard pick.
Yes, it
by
was.
One of our Patreons.
The final wildcard pick of this season.
It is indeed. The final wildcard pick of season 8 went to Jordan Shenton, and he picked a movie called A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
I can't tell you, just before you go a bit further, how I have not been able to get this title right in my head this week.
Yeah, agreed.
And my brain keeps wanting to say a stupid and futile gesture.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why.
No, because I think futile and stupid runs off the tongue better than stupid and futile.
Yeah.
But
my
yeah,
brain
I know what you
keeps
mean.
wanting to spin
Switch it. Yeah.
I don't know why.
How strange.
Yeah.
Futile and Stupid Gesture was released in 2018. It is a 15. It runs for 1 hour and 41 minutes. Currently rated at 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb and is a Netflix original. 6.7 out of 10. That's high. Might be the highest of the season.
It's surprisingly high. For me, it's surprisingly high. That's not my reflection, but after I watched this movie, as I usually do a bit of reading about it. And I mean, I wouldn't say from the few articles and things that I read, it was particularly highly reviewed. So
no.
Maybe more popular with audiences than
with critics.
Because
we were talking briefly last week about how this is the sort of movie that shouldn't be at the bottom of the stream. This is the story of how National Lampoon became to be a thing in the 70s and 80s.
And its
cast is magnificent.
It is chocked full of cameos.
So why had we never heard of it?
Yeah.
This is the thing. Why has this happened?
Yeah.
But maybe we'll find out as we go through it.
Is it an algorithm thing?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just us being ignorant and loads of people have heard of it.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe.
This film stars a guy called Will Forte. He plays Doug Kenney. Doug Kenney was the originator of National Lampoon.
Yeah.
Will Forte I know him mostly. He's in a sitcom called The Last Man on Earth.
Yes.
You ever seen that? It's very funny. It's a good
He
show.
was also MacGruber, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. In the
which is like a
self-titled
sketch
TV
show and movie.
Also, this movie stars a guy called Domnhall Gleason.
No, it doesn't. I'm not having it.
We've just been talking before we started recording. He plays Henry Beard, the other founder of National Lampoon.
Yeah.
Neither of us realised that this was Domhnall Gleeson until the film ended.
No.
It's an unbelievable performance because you just don't know. I didn't know it was him.
Oh, no.
I would never have said it in a million years.
That it was Domhnall Gleeson.
I didn't know until I started writing the notes for this bit that I'm doing now that it was him. Yeah, I'm with you. You'll know Domhnall Gleeson. He's in the last 2 Harry Potter films.
Yeah.
He plays one of the lesser-known Weasley brothers.
He's done some Star Wars.
Couple of Star Wars films. He's also in a sitcom. Have you seen Frank of Ireland?
Yes.
Very funny sitcom.
Yes.
With his brothers and his dad.
Yeah.
Dad, obviously, Brendan Gleeson. He's also in the Peter Rabbit movies. He's just in everything. He's great. But yeah, I had no idea that he was in this. Even after watching it.
I didn't pick it at all.
Nor did I. This film was written by a writing duo who write everything together. They're called Michael Colton and John Aboot. Most famous probably for the Penguins of Madagascar.
Oh, nice.
Randomly, they wrote that. They've done quite a bit together, but that's the most famous film I think they've done. It's also based on a book, this film.
Okay.
The book was written by a guy called Josh Karp. Same name of the book. The book's called the same name, Futile and Stupid Gesture. Director. Do you want to know about the director?
Yes, please.
Directed by David Wain.
Okay.
Have you heard that name before?
I know of one thing he directed.
He directed the Wet Hot American Summer movie, which is probably what he's most famous for.
Yeah.
He also did Children's Hospital.
Okay.
Did a few episodes of that. He won 3 Emmys for that show.
Wow.
And that was a spin-off of another show.
Yeah.
And then Medical Police came out.
Yes.
And he wrote that as well.
Oh, excellent.
Directed that, sorry. And he also directed a movie called Role Models.
Yes.
With Paul Rudd and Sean William Scott.
Sean William Scott, yeah.
Paul Rudd is his lifelong best friend, apparently.
Oh, nice.
They're best friends. But yeah, he's got 3 Emmys for his writing on Children's Hospital.
Excellent.
This film is I want to give a bit of background on what the film is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's...
It's an unusual film.
Yeah.
Because it is it's a biopic of Doug Kenney, but nobody knows who Doug Kenney is.
Yeah.
He's not a household name. But back in the 70s and 80s, National Lampoon was massive. Massive. There's loads of National Lampoon films.
Sure.
He died before National Lampoon became famous, as a spoiler. But
I thought what I was getting was the story of National Lampoon, but that is kind of only what it is indirectly. It's a Doug Kenney biopic.
It is, yeah. And a lot of people describe him as the funniest man who have ever lived. He's been described as that by lots of world-famous comedians. But very troubled man. And this is an unusual film because it's a biopic and it's got a narrator.
Yeah.
But it isn't a documentary. And a lot of it isn't real. A lot of it is made for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
But it feels like a documentary about him when it isn't. And it's a really interesting way they've done this movie.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the devices they use through this, but it is... Yeah, it's a different way to do this sort of movie, I think.
Yeah.
Which took me by surprise.
Yeah, it did. It wasn't what I was expecting, and it's a really interesting way to do a movie like this. Where does the film start, Nick?
Have I got a one-word review?
Oh, sorry. What's your one-word review?
Oh my God, they killed Doug Kenney.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I'm very much impressed with you.
Didn't have that 5 minutes ago. Didn't have that.
And you reminded me to say it. Well done. Where does the film start, Nick?
1958.
It does indeed. Well, there's a quote that comes up on the screen first.
Yeah.
The quote is, "These last few days are the happiest I've ever ignored."
Yeah.
By Doug Kenney.
That's a nice.
It's a good quote.
That's a nice quote.
It is a good quote. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. We see a kid.
Yep, sad kid.
In the back of a car.
Yeah.
Holding a tennis racket.
Yes.
This is Doug.
It is.
This is Doug Kenney.
He's heading to a funeral.
Yeah.
It's what, 11, 12, 9,
yeah.
10? Somewhere around there.
Yeah, sure.
And then we also meet Doug Kenney introducing himself to camera.
This is narrator Doug.
Narrator Doug, as an old man.
Like late 60s?
Yeah, I guess so. And he's introducing himself to camera because he's going to narrate us all the way through this movie now.
He's being interviewed.
Yeah.
And he's giving feedback to the filmmakers.
Yeah.
And he says, that's not how we should start this movie.
Yeah, let's not start there at the funeral.
Yeah.
Let's start at Harvard.
And the directors kind of asking him to introduce himself.
Yeah.
You got to say, I'm Doug Kenney, the funniest man who ever lived.
Yeah.
America's top comedian, all this sort of stuff. And he's like, he just won't.
No, he just won't do it. Because he doesn't believe it, and he never did believe it during his life looking at this film. But he starts that scene with "Let's start at Harvard." We cut to fall of 1964.
Yeah.
And instantly we meet Henry.
We start where I meet Henry Beard.
And he does. And we meet Henry Beard from the very beginning. They worked on a humour magazine, they describe it as.
Yeah, the Harvard Lampoon.
Harvard Lampoon. I don't know what a lampoon is.
It's like a parody, isn't it?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, to lampoon someone. So it's a satirical magazine.
Yeah,
student
magazine.
Magazine.
They write it as part of this thing at Harvard, but it's also an excuse to just party all the time.
Yeah, because they've basically, the people who work on the Lampoon have this society, which is a social thing, and it's party time. It's
party time. They play some pool. Doug then meets a girl. This movie also moves very quickly. It doesn't give you any. There's no meat. It's all meat. There's no shit. You know what I mean? It's just moving through time, but it's really speedy, high tempo movie.
Doug the character,
yeah,
pretty much only speaks in one-liners. So that's the character Will Forte is playing.
Yeah,
Doug the narrator is the one giving us the exposition and the.
Doug meets a girl. The girl's called Alex.
This is. We've already moved on through his Harvard career, so this is a couple of years
later. Lot of time passes through in this movie as well.
Yeah, to start with, we're just further into his Harvard career. They're in their final year, I think.
Yeah, I think they are.
At university.
He takes it to what he describes as the dungeon, which is like his office at the magazine, I guess. And then they're getting to know each other, Doug and this girl. And then Henry comes in and he grabs him because it's time to be adulated.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great line.
So it's their book launch party.
Yes, they've written a book.
And it's called Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and it's a parody of Lord of the Rings.
And
obviously.
They just go and there's about 5 minutes of Lord of the Rings puns.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember any of.
No, not me, but there's loads of them.
It's like, right, and his book was Mordor.
Yeah, things like that. There's a really good Sauron one, but I can't remember what it was. So yeah, we go to them getting a lot of praise from their peers about this book. And then Doug speaks to his mum and dad on the phone. It's revealed that he hasn't got any sort of plans for the future now. He's about to leave Harvard.
He's not applied
for jobs or any further college courses or anything like that.
His parents are rich, uptight.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with your life?
Yeah. You need to do something.
You're a failure. You're a slacker. All you do is write this.
You haven't done anything at uni. All you've done is written this
magazines.
Absolutely. That's exactly what's happened. And he's like, well, then I'll just carry on doing that. I'll just do a Lampoon. But I'll do a national one.
He says to Henry, because Henry's going to. I think he's got
his life sorted.
He's got a job lined up at like a law firm.
He's leaving this world behind. He's leaving the Lampoon behind. He's going to move on with his life.
And Doug says, "Well, why don't we just carry on doing the magazine?
Yeah, we'll just keep doing the Lampoon.
We'll just scale it up,
make it national."
And I quite like this. This is my sense of humour. It's stupid jokes when. Doug's trying to convince Henry to come on board, and Doug says it's going to be big. I can feel it. We've got something here. And Henry's like, "How big?" And Doug's like, "Well, it's a magazine. It's about
A4
this."
There's lots of those silly little jokes.
Yeah, that's the level we're at.
Yeah, that is the level we're at. I've written here. There's a montage of Henry not being keen because he's kind of following him around for a while, trying to convince him to do this.
Because he keeps just saying, "Tempting."
Yeah,
that's kind of his catchphrase.
Yeah. And he's like, we can't do this. We've never, ever met a deadline. And if we're going to make a National Lampoon,
an actual
magazine, we need to meet deadlines. And we've never done that. But he says, tempting. Yeah. He keeps saying tempting over and over again. So they go, there's a montage then of them meeting with lots of different magazine publishers, getting rejected by every single one of them. Doug even tries to pitch a different magazine at one point that's
off the cuff,
just sandwiches.
Like modern
sandwich, yeah. But they don't like that one either. And then they go to the publishing company that publishes the Weight Watchers magazine, which I thought was a really nice little touch. And that guy gets on board.
Kind of.
Well, yeah, he's against it to start with, but eventually he comes around and he's.
But he's easily. A few compliments. He's
easily
ego's massaged, and he gives them
a very small budget to do this. Doug then marries Alex.
Yeah.
We don't see it. It's just a line that's happened. This has happened.
And they move into a place.
Yes, with Henry.
Yeah, and then the gag is Henry lives there also.
Yeah, because the gag that made me laugh in this scene was he's like, eventually because the deal they've made with this Matt guy is that in 5 years' time he'll have to buy them out.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So Doug says to Alex, in 5 years' time we'll all be able to buy a house each.
Yeah.
And then me and Henry can wave at you across the park. And I thought that's really funny because that implies that he's going to stay with Henry. And I really like that.
He says he'll buy them out at 10 times the
value.
The value of circulation or whatever.
And then Alex kind of starts working for them a little bit.
So does Mary Marshmallow.
Mary Marshmallow does as well, which is a great name.
Why is she called Mary Marshmallow?
She's got big boobs. She brings them in their budgeted supplies, which is 1 pad and 2 pencils.
Yeah.
That's all they've been given by this Matt guy. Matty, I think they call him.
Yeah, Matty's the publisher, yeah.
They have 0 ideas. They're both sitting there with their pad and their pencils.
And Doug's like, I'm going to write comedy on this piece of paper.
Yeah.
And Henry's like, yeah, it's a good start.
So Henry's like, well, let's employ some writers. We know these people from Harvard.
Yeah.
And Doug's like, let's employ people not from Harvard.
Yeah.
Because that will give us a different slant on things. So then we get a montage of meeting all the different writers, which I also thought was quite good.
So a few familiar faces here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Michael O'Donoghue comes on board.
Yeah.
He was one of the first lead writers later on in his career on Saturday Night Live.
He was indeed.
And he was played by Tom Glennon.
Yes.
And he's been on the show before.
Yes.
He was in Pottersville. Where he played the hunter who did that Nelson Mandela song.
Oh, was that him?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that was him.
So it's his second time on this show.
Okay.
They're also joined by a British comedian / writer.
Tony Hendra.
Played by Matt Lucas.
Randomly.
And Annie Beats.
Yes.
A female writer.
Yes.
Played by Natasha Lyonne.
Who's also been on the show before.
Yes.
In Handsome, a Netflix mystery movie. She was in that.
She was.
I feel like she might have been in something else as well. But I will have to check.
Okay.
But she's definitely in Handsome. So yeah, 2 of those people have been in the show before.
And then a whole slew of other writers joined the team.
Yeah, it's really funny because they introduced one more. They introduced Brian McConaughey. Is that your guy you just said?
No.
Okay. They introduced him as a straight up weirdo, which I liked. And then they introduced a lot more. But then the narrator guy comes on because this narrator Doug comes on screen occasionally,
Yes,
and we
he does,
meet
yeah.
him. And he's like, we actually had lots more writers, but there's only enough time in this movie to tell you about these 4.
Yeah.
So everybody else can just go home, and all these other like extras go home. It's a really funny little gag. I really liked it. Then they sit down and they have a brainstorming meeting together.
And they've got 8 weeks,
8 weeks
to put out the first issue.
First issue's going out in 8 weeks.
So they're just pitching ideas.
Yeah. Tony Hendra, Matt Lucas's character, has an idea. They don't like it. He wanted to do Nixon with a Pinocchio nose.
Yeah.
They don't like it, and then he storms out of the office.
He does.
He's a highly temperamental character.
I would say so.
Tony. And then we cut forward, and the magazine's now out.
Yeah, first issue's out.
The first issue's out, and it is not selling at all.
It bombs.
It completely bombs. And to the point where Henry even says, I don't even like this shit.
Yeah.
I don't even like this magazine.
He says it's wrong from the front cover because they've employed these like trendy art directors and
cartoonists.
Yeah, and it's just they're like, this isn't the look we want.
Yeah, and Henry says, look, it's ugly. It's an ugly magazine. And he says to Doug, you need to fire the art directors. So Doug's like, well, I don't want to fire the art directors, but they have a bit of a set to about it. Henry then says, well, I've met with some other art directors, and he shows him some alternate designs that they could have used.
They say it's the same people who come up with the art for, I think he said, a Family Health magazine.
Yeah, something
so
like
the old, like, well, we're in, late 60s, early 70s. The old sort of, your country needs you type art style, and that's what they decide to go with.
Yeah, Doug's like,
well,
Doug's
Henry
against.
decides to go with.
He is, and then Doug sees the pictures, and then he instantly goes and fires the art directors. So he's kind of on board with it as well. And then the magazine is now a hit.
Yeah,
So
magazine montage.
There's a magazine montage of it selling like Billy-O.
There's a lot of montages in this movie.
Yeah, there is,
but I didn't
they kind
mind
of
them.
they kind of work.
Yeah,
because this movie's pacey. It moves at such a pace. We're flying through years already, and it's just a good way of forwarding through time.
so we get this montage is a mix of the success they're starting to see,
Yeah,
plus the number of times they're getting sued.
yeah. So Disney is suing them because they show Minnie Mouse with her boobs out in one episode, in one magazine. Volkswagen's suing them because they show a beetle being drowned.
Yeah.
A beetle car in the water. You can't drown a car. And there's loads, but they're really excited by being sued by all these people because any publicity is good publicity,
Sure.
and it's not their problem; it's Matty's problem.
But it's having bad effects on Doug's relationship with his wife Alex.
Yes.
He's basically never there.
Yeah, he admits in the narration that, look, I was never there. I was never in the bed. She's
Yeah.
lying in bed on her own.
We were late.
Yeah, to the point where Henry walks into Doug's office and he's asleep at his typewriter at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And Henry just leaves him there. He leaves him a note on the top.
Wait, but he puts his cigarette out that he's still got in his mouth.
And then just leaves him there. Then Doug does a small TV interview.
Yeah, they're getting a bit of notoriety.
Yeah.
Ed Helms was the interview.
He was indeed. And he compares himself to Dracula, which I thought was quite funny. Because it sounded like he was comparing himself to Jesus, then flicked it at the last minute to be Dracula. And then Doug he tells Henry, look, we need to start expanding. We need a radio show.
Yeah, let's do a radio show.
And Henry's like, we haven't even got time to do a magazine. How are we going to do a radio show? Henry's always like the calm, sensible one of the two. And Doug's the dreamer. But Doug always gets his own way eventually.
Well, Henry says, you can do it,
Yep.
but you're not doing it.
Yes.
Because you're on a bad path, basically. He's already seen it.
Because he's sitting with Alex at the time, his wife, and she's against it as well. Because she's like,
says,
you're never here anyway.
Yeah.
You can't take on anymore.
You
You're
haven't
already
got more
doing too
time
much.
to give.
Yeah, and then Henry finds out that Doug's fucking Mary Mushrooms. Marshmallows.
Mary Mushrooms.
Oh my god. I've even written marshmallows.
I think...
Mary Mushrooms is a bad name, I'm sorry.
Is it? I think if you're growing mushrooms,
Yeah.
something's probably not right.
Yeah. Send me. Henry finds out that Doug's fucking Mary Marshmallows behind Alex's back, and he's not happy about that. But
yeah, Doug
nothing
says, like, yeah, I promise I will delegate the radio show. And then it cuts to old Doug, and he just says, I didn't. I'm doing the radio show. The radio show's an enormous hit from the off. But they need people to be on the radio
They do,
show.
because it's going to be like a sketch show, but on radio. So they need actors, voice actors. And they hire a cast of voice actors for this radio show.
Yeah. So young up-and-coming comedians. Who
Yeah.
walks through the door? To name but a few. Do you want to go?
I've got a list.
Go on.
All. Bill Murray
Yeah.
is the first one we
that
get
one.
introduced to. That Bill Murray. Christopher Guest
Yeah.
is the second.
That guy?
John Belushi. Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
And obviously Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Chevy Chase in this movie is played by John McHale. Nice touch.
Yeah, can I just point out what a brilliant joke that is?
Yeah.
That is an absolute dig at Chevy Chase.
100%.
Because
apparently Chevy Chase did give his permission, not permission, but blessing to do it.
Because but it works on a couple of levels because firstly, obviously, I'm a big fan of the sitcom Community.
Yes.
And the whole one of the lines all the way through that Chevy Chase's character Pierce was like, oh, in my younger days I was just like Jeff, who's the character that John McHale plays in the show. And then the fact that Chevy Chase left under such a cloud with allegedly everyone just hating him.
Yeah.
And he's now being played by one of those guys. It's just...
It's a great joke. And he's played really well by him as well.
And the fact that no one looks like anyone.
Well, they even reference that in the film.
I like that. Yeah, but I'd read a review later on and someone had got... This reviewer on whatever website had gone, oh, well, it's just ridiculous. They don't even try to act like the younger versions of these people. I was like, that's the joke.
That's the joke in the movie. They literally say it. There's the narrator at this point is saying, yeah, we know none of the actors look like the guys, but this is just who was available. Yeah. Although the John Belushi one
that
isn't a bad likeness.
That is a pretty good
That's not a bad likeness. And then this film gets even more self-aware because the narrator, whilst he's talking about that sort of thing, he's like, yeah, we know the actors don't look like the real people, but there's also lots of other things in this movie that we've changed or dramatized. And then they put this list on the screen of all of them.
Yeah.
Everything that's changed. And I've got this list here. Would you like me to read a few of them out?
Yeah, go for it.
So it says Doug's brother, Daniel, this is the funeral they were at. This is even telling us stuff that we've not even seen in the movie yet. Yeah. But the movie doesn't stop long enough for you to read any of this. It's just a list. You can't read it. So the first one says, Doug brothers Daniel succumbed to a long illness and died in 1968 when Doug was in college.
Not when he was a young
kid, because that's whose funeral they were going for. Everyone was a lot more sexist and racist than they appear to be in the movie. The idea to do a standalone yearbook parody came from Matty Simmons and was based on a piece Doug and Michael O'Donoghue wrote for the magazine. That comes up later on.
Yeah, whereas in the movie it's Doug's idea.
Chevy Chase was not there when Doug delivered goats to his parents, but Doug did buy them goats. That happens in the movie later on. The line about ships and sinking rats comes from Sean Kelly. Animal House and Caddyshack were made for different studios. Brad, the studio executive, is a composite character.
Yeah, that's Joe Latrulia.
Joe Latrulia has also been on this show before.
Yeah.
Doug showed a full drawer of cocaine to Rick Merowitz and not to Chris Miller, which happens later on. Doug saw, there's loads. Doug saw an aeroplane not with Catherine Walker, but with Peter Ivers. Doug and Henry did make up in New York, but not on the day of the Caddyshack press conference. There's 3 pages of this. Mogdor is technically a dwarf planet. That's a joke that they make much later on.
They even say this is not Will Forte's real hair.
This is not Will Forte's real hair. As far as we know, Alex never walked on and Doug with another woman, but she did eventually learn about his affair. Doug first ran away from National Lampoon in 1971, where he went to Martha's Vineyard with Mary, and then later went on to see Peter Ivers and Lucy Fisher, which he does do in the movie.
But they live somewhere else. Yeah. There's loads.
There's loads. Yeah,
it's just quite a good joke.
Yeah, it's a really good joke. So there's loads that they've dramatized for this film, but they're aware of that, and the film's completely self-aware.
Yeah.
That it's telling this story, but it's telling it from a dramatic effect, and it's funny. Alex then catches Doug cheating.
Yes.
But this is done in a way of a comic strip in the movie.
Yeah, it's done like with the storyboard, the panels in the magazine.
In the storyboard. And Alex leaves him. So this is...
And Doug's sad on the couch.
Yeah, this is a great way of telling what could have been 5 or 10 minute story in a minute.
It worked.
And it worked really well. Chevy Chase then comes in to offer Doug some advice.
He does, yeah.
But
Doug just ignores.
They completely ignores him and they end up just doing drugs together.
Yep.
Chevy Chase and Doug do a lot of drugs together in this movie.
Really do.
They really, really do. Then they start doing live stand-up shows, like live sketch shows on stage.
To release his albums.
Yeah. And Doug starts trying loads of different drugs just to cope with this hectic lifestyle that he's made for himself. And he eventually has a breakdown.
He withdraws and curls up in his office.
Yeah, he does. And he leaves. He basically leaves a note for Henry and just says, I'm off. I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
And he goes off to visit some old college friends in Los Angeles. So no, it's the other way around. Is it New York?
Martha's Vineyard.
Martha's Vineyard. Okay. And this is where the film reveals that the funeral at the start was his brother's funeral.
Yeah.
Which was his dad's favourite child. His dad made no bones about that.
Yeah, his elder brother was like the sporty one. He was going to be like a tennis superstar, and Doug's always been second best.
Then there's a really weird moment where there's a bomb in the office, which
Oh yeah, because they were getting hate mail.
Yeah, they were getting a lot of hate mail, but it looked like that writer guy had brought the bomb in. But
no, he was proud because it was addressed to him.
Oh, okay, and he'd got the bomb. I was confused. I was, he brought this bomb in. He's getting arrested. I don't know what's going on. Doug's then been at his friend's house for weeks, and he's revealed that he's writing a novel.
Yeah.
And then the film says 6 months later, which I don't think it needed to do because it was already moving through time.
It did
quite quickly.
That's true. That's weird. That's the only
time in the movie where it actually does that.
I hadn't thought of that.
But
basically,
it's to let us know that Doug has left and is left for a long time.
And essentially, the inmates are now controlling the asylum.
Yeah,
at National Lampoon.
Everything's fallen apart under Henry. He's not got any control over anybody.
Tony Hendra assaults the editor.
The publisher they have a fight.
They fight through
going through a glass door.
Pane glass door.
Everybody's about to quit. Annie Betts is on the way out.
Yeah.
She's having an affair with one of the other writers. They're both going to quit. Just as she's walking out the door, Doug walks back in.
Yeah.
And instantly everything calms down.
Yeah.
And he starts cracking one-liners out. And Henry sits him down and basically fills him in on what's happened. And it's how it's all gone tits up over the last 6 months. But Doug's really not interested. He's like, oh, we'll sort that out. Don't worry about that. I've written a novel. Do you want to read my novel? And Henry does. And he sits in his office and he reads this whole novel from start to finish. And he doesn't like it. No. So Doug just puts it in the dustbin.
Doug just goes, oh, forget about it then.
Yeah, forget about it then. Just puts it in the... It's 6 months he's been writing this thing. Puts it in the dustbin and it never gets mentioned again in the whole movie. And that genuinely did happen. I've done some research and he did chuck it in the bin when Henry didn't like it. And Doug's whole life revolves around his need for Henry to
he wants
like
a father figure to like him, and although Henry's more like a brother to him, he desperately seeks that recognition from his father, which he's never had, and Henry's the next closest thing, I guess.
Doug now doesn't really fit in the writer's room. He doesn't really know, he's been away for so long, he doesn't know anything about current news, current affairs, anything like that.
And Henry basically sideways moves him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He says, I've got a special project.
Work on this special project.
Says, the way Henry pushes it to him is, I don't want you to be worried about deadlines.
Yeah.
You don't need the stress.
I
want you to go and work
on
this.
He takes one of the other writers. He's like, go and work on this other project. And what this other project is a parody high school yearbook.
Yeah.
So they basically research loads of high school yearbooks. One of the pictures in the high school yearbook is Paul Rudd, which I thought was quite funny.
Oh, nice.
It's Paul Rudd's high school yearbook photo. And basically, they're going to write a parody. It's a special edition of the magazine that's coming out. It's a parody of it. It looks like a high school yearbook. It reads like a high school yearbook, but it's all jokes.
And there's another montage of them researching like all these archetypal high school like nerds, the jocks, the nerds, the rockers, and all this sort of thing.
And eventually, it comes out and it becomes the best-selling issue of the magazine of all time. Yeah. It sells 1 million copies, which is unheard of for National Lampoon at this point. And then the film abruptly cuts to a long time later on.
Well, it doesn't abruptly cut.
No, it doesn't abruptly cut.
But we know time has passed because we're at the 5-year mark.
We're at this 5-year mark.
Matty's got to buy them out.
Yeah. And he doesn't have the cash. He can't
afford to.
He can't afford. He says to them, "You're a victim of your own success.
Yeah. I can't
buy you out. I can't buy you
bankrupt
out."
Me.
So they start trashing his office, and to the point where he eventually is like, just to shut them up, he buys them out.
He writes the check.
He writes the check to buy them out, which is $3 million each for Henry and Doug. But it ruins his company. Or it potentially will ruin his company if they ever cash these checks. And Henry, at this point, says, I'm done.
Yeah.
He says, when we started this project out, you said to me, we'll do this until it's not fun anymore. And Henry says, it is not fun anymore. I'm done. I'm going.
He says, I'm tired of taking care of you.
Yeah.
To Doug.
And he leaves.
Doug says, I like this exchange. Doug says, well, you can't quit. And Henry says, well, you did.
Yeah.
And it was... I wasn't expecting the pathos.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this would be a really throwaway movie, and I do have some issues with this movie, but actually, I was quite touched at points by Doug and Henry.
Their relationship really works really well, didn't it? It really did.
And I think most of that is on how good Domhnall Gleason was in this movie, I've got to say.
Yeah. And Will Forte.
Well, he was
They're
good,
both brilliant.
But, yeah.
And that scene ends with "Good luck, fuck you, goodbye."
Yeah.
Which I really like that as a line. That'd be a great T-shirt. Doug's then really sad, so he goes to a bar where he meets a lady.
He does.
He meets a lady called Catherine, and this is going to be his
chat. What do you think of his chat-up line?
What was his chat-up line?
He's like, "I'm really hungry," and then he just bites
through the glass. Yeah, that was weird as fuck. He's like, "I'm really hungry," and then just eats a glass. I was like, "Whoa." I would have ran away.
Yeah.
this lady married him.
Yeah.
So she becomes his second wife. And he says, look, let's go to Hollywood. He tells her I'm going to Hollywood, and he goes to Hollywood. He's got a lot of money. He must have cashed this check.
He's bought his parents a house.
He's brought his parents a mansion, a lovely big house, and he's brought himself a Porsche.
Yes.
And he's also brought his parents another gift. He's brought them 2 goats, which he delivers with Chevy Chase. He takes Chevy Chase to meet his parents, and Chevy and his dad have a bit of a heart-to-heart. Because
Chevy's like, well, aren't you proud of your son? He's bought you this place.
Bought you this place is amazing.
He's tremendously successful. And Doug's dad is like, no, he's a slacker.
Yeah.
What's that magazine doing for anyone?
Yeah.
So Chevy Chase, in true Chevy Chase style, because he's the master of the pratfall.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm just going to go and make a drink from this nice bar you've got here, and then manages to
trip over it and trash it
all. Right.
Yeah, he does a pratfall. And then Doug is later on, he's in bed with Catherine watching a new TV show that he's on in the middle of the night that nobody else is watching. But all of his cast are on it.
Yeah.
And this is Saturday Night Live, the start of Saturday Night Live.
And Catherine's like, oh, you're better off without them anyway. No one's watching this. It's the middle of the night.
It's the middle of the night. No, this isn't going to be a successful show. And he says to Catherine, we actually turned down a TV show about 8 months ago called Lampoon TV because we didn't have time to do it. Yeah. We didn't have time. And my cast have now gone off and joined this midnight show that nobody's watching. And then there's a joke because the narrator says, and Saturday Night Live was a disaster and was cancelled after 3 weeks. Oh, no, Saturday Night Live is now still showing 40 years later. It was a really nice little joke. Saturday Night Live obviously was a massive hit. Every comedian of all time has ever worked on Saturday Night Live. So he goes to a party, like a launch party for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, he's invited because he knows so many people.
He knows all the people that are in it. And he goes there to congratulate his friends. And Annie Betts says to him, we're doing this because it's fun, like the Lampoon used to be.
Yeah,
and that kind of
shit.
Yeah, that kind of cuts him deep a little bit. But they're all there. Chevy's there. He does another pratfall over a table. John Belushi's there. Literally everybody's there. And then he meets Lorne Michael.
Yeah, Chevy introduces him.
Yeah, to the master of Saturday Night Live. The I guess the successful Doug Kenney. This guy becomes. Yeah, and even Lorne Michael tries to recruit him. He's like, come and work for me on Saturday Night. You can have a job. Literally, it's yours. And he turns him down. Doug
he's
says,
too proud. He's an asshole.
I'm not doing that. And he calls him a thief because he's stolen all of his cast members. So Doug's like, right, what do I need to do that's better than Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
I need to skip over TV. Let's do a movie.
Yeah, I'll go straight to the
movie. I'll go straight to the movies. And him and Harold Ramis go and pitch it to Matty, the guy who runs the magazine. And he's like, look, we need to do this movie. Give us a budget. Find a studio.
Yeah.
Give us a budget and we'll make this movie. And
help us make a deal.
Make it super famous. Harold Ramis introduced him to Ivan Reitman.
The guy they are playing Ivan Reitman.
And Harold Ramis.
They were both great, but the Ivan Reitman guy was the best lookalike.
It really was.
It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he really was. Considering they say, oh, these guys don't really look like their counterparts.
Yeah.
Quite a few of them actually did. John Belushi's did. Harold Ramis's did. And sounded just like him.
Yeah.
And the Ivan Reitman one, it was crazy.
So it's them few and a comedy writer called Chris Miller, who is played by Max Greenfield.
Yeah.
From New Girl.
Well, yeah, why not? Who's also been on the show before.
Yes.
That's 4 people now. And they come up with the concept for Animal House.
Yeah.
Which everybody knows the story of Animal House.
And Mike gets them a deal. They've got to make this movie for $2 million.
Yep. Universal will make this movie. And it's got to come in under $2 million. So and this is where we meet Joe Latrulio's character. He's like the angry studio exec. And they start shooting in the summer of 1976 in St. Louis.
Yeah. And we have a montage of
set shooting. They're on the set of Animal House. Joe Latrulio's character, I can't remember his name, he's kicking off because there's a racist scene in it he doesn't like. Doug introduces himself as like a set, because the writers are not allowed on set. So he introduces himself as like
a cast.
He's a cast member. And he kind of talks him around a little bit, and then he starts a food fight.
Yeah.
Because
it's Animal House.
Fuck the studio, we are making a movie, is the line they use. And then the film comes out in July of 1978. and it is the top of the box office.
Oh, it's the biggest comedy in movie history.
At that time, it was the biggest comedy in movie history. It was. Animal House was a huge success. Yeah. Have you ever seen Animal House?
I have, yeah. Look, I mean, not for many years, but
this movie's made me want to go back and watch that and Caddyshack, though.
Caddyshack I've seen more.
Yes, I agree. I've seen that more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I'm going to watch both of them at some point soon.
I came away from this the same. I was like, I want to go and rewatch those now.
I want to ingest some more National Lampoon into my life because I feel like it's the sort of things that you watch, like all the Christmas movies and stuff, and Chevy Chase's movies.
Yeah.
I grew up with those movies. But he wasn't involved in any of those.
No.
Because he was dead by then. But
the
earlier Lampoon stuff.
But it became a badge, didn't it?
Yeah.
It became a reasonably well-regarded brand that if you put those words in front of you, kind of knew what you were getting. Yeah. That's not what Animal House is, and that's not what Caddyshack were. They were done... It was before that name was revived, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, the National Lampoon's a phrase that I've always known, and I've always watched movies, but I never knew anything about it. It's never even occurred to me to look into what it is.
Yeah.
Until now. And now I feel like I've got a gap in my movie knowledge that I need to fill in a little bit. So that movie's given me this. That movie's educated me slightly, I guess. So it becomes the biggest movie in box office history, biggest comedy movie. Doug says, but the problem I've got now is where do I go from here?
Sure.
Once you've had the most successful comedy of all time, what do you do next?
Well, the first thing he does is he tells Matt he's leaving the magazine.
He does. He says, look, I need to leave National Lampoon because I'm going to make movies now. And also the studio guy, Joe Lutrio's character, loves him now. Yeah. They absolutely look up because obviously...
He says, oh, look, I'm leaving New York, I'm moving to Hollywood. And there is a lovely transition where he literally walks out of this party.
Yeah, in New York.
The post-shoot party. And into the street, and the sun comes out, and he takes his jacket off, and he's got a Hawaiian shirt underneath, and he walks onto set. In Hollywood.
His hair even changes, and he's on a Hollywood back set all of a sudden. Yeah. It's a beautiful transition. I really like that. And he meets with Chevy Chase because they're going to brainstorm some ideas.
Yeah.
What they actually do is a lot more drugs.
Throw a massive party.
We find out that his dad is still not really proud of him.
This was really sad. Doug calls his mum and he says, "Oh, how are the builders getting on with the pool? I've ordered. It's going to be it's as big as they could make it.
Yeah. Does
Dad like it?" And you don't hear her side, but you can tell she's sort of saying, "Well, he's not that bothered.
It's not that bothered. It's just a pool." So then they throw a party at their new Hollywood digs, wherever they're living. Him and Chevy Chase, I guess, are living together.
Yeah.
A lot of cocaine again at this party. He opens a drawer at one point and he's like, do you want to see what $2,000 of cocaine looks like? And it's just this massive drawer full of cocaine.
It really made me laugh. There's a bit where John McHale, who's playing Chevy Chase, he's coming along with a plate of buffet food.
Yeah.
And Doug's left the cocaine drawer open.
Yeah.
And Chevy Chase just throws the food off the plate and just starts spooning cocaine onto it instead.
There's loads of little things like that in this movie that really work.
Yeah.
And I think John McHale playing Chevy Chase was a really clever idea.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't work.
But it really does.
But it does work. In the context of this movie, with everything else that's going on around it, it actually works.
Yeah, it really does. Halfway through this party, Catherine shows up, his wife. He forgot she was coming. He thought she was coming the day after.
Yeah, he's so fucked up. Because she's an actress as well. And he messed up the day she was returning home.
And she is not happy. She's had to make her own way from the airport. She's fuming. She's not happy there's a party going on in her house. She's not happy with all this money. Not happy with all this cocaine that's in the house.
Yeah. She throws a Toby jug full of cocaine at Doug.
She does. And it smashes on the wall and leaves a big white stain on the wall. And she says, you've got more money than you know what to do with. You're just wasting money because you don't know what to do with it all. It's ridiculous how much money you've got now.
And rather than have this argument, he's like, right, well, I'll make more money. And he goes back to work. He just literally starts typing on his typewriter.
Yeah, whilst they're having the middle of this argument, he writes Caddyshack. And
at this point, I was like, fuck, he wrote that as well. Yeah. So again, like you, I didn't realise that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's really clever. And then it cuts from there straight to the filming of Caddyshack.
Loads more drugs being done on the set of Caddyshack.
Literally on the set of Caddyshack. And Harold Ramis is directing this one.
Yeah, they're racing around in golf carts.
Yeah. This was a mental movie set by the looks of it. I'd like to know more on the story of Caddyshack.
Bill Murray sings to Doug in a hallucination.
Yeah, he has an hallucination. Yeah.
But things aren't going so well. They're over budget. They're over schedule.
Yeah. Basically, the song Bill Murray sings is all about the bad things that are happening in Doug's life. Yeah. So
your father doesn't respect you. No one loves you.
The guy from the movie studio, Brad, he does not like Caddyshack.
No.
He comes in, he's like, what the fuck is this movie? It's just about golf. You're all doing so many drugs. I need more of this gopher. Yeah. And he has the animatronic gopher from Caddyshack on his desk. And he wants more of that in the movie.
Are they getting a fight?
They do, because Doug mentions something about Brad's wife fucking somebody else.
Yeah.
They start fighting. Literally, Brad jumps over the desk at him. And they fight in front of a tour bus full of people. And there's a really nice little in-joke here that I found out on IMDb. So at the end of Animal House, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not confident in that at all. One of the characters is called Babs.
Yeah.
And she, at the end of the movie, they do Where Everybody Is Now.
Okay.
And Babs' character went off to become a tour guide at Universal Studios.
Okay.
And this actress is that actress.
Nice.
So I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I really like that. Doug then gets sidelined. He's like, he gets basically
chucked off his own movie.
You're not involved in this movie anymore. He is still credited on Caddyshack, but he's the third writer credited on the movie now. Whilst he's being sidelined, he goes to see Airplane.
Yeah, and it shakes him.
It fucks him. It shakes him to the core because he's like, that's the funniest movie I've ever seen, and Caddyshack cannot compete with a movie like that. And he's like, I've been replaced in Hollywood already. I'm already insignificant.
I'm not as good as them.
Already
not as good as Zanuck and those guys.
I've been away for a few days, but I'm not as good as those guys, and I can't be as good as those guys. So he's like, he rings his pseudo father figure. He's like, I need to meet with Henry. Yeah. So he does. He's in New York. They're in New York together. I think it was for a Caddyshack press conference. It was in New York. He meets up with Henry. They have a bit of a catch up.
And Henry's like, "What are you worried about? You wrote Animal House.
Yeah, the greatest comedy movie of all time."
And Doug's like, oh, "That was 2 years ago."
Yeah, now Airplane's coming out.
Yeah, and I'm nothing.
Yeah,
and he's drunk. He's fucking hammered,
off his face drunk.
Yeah,
Henry's moved on with his life. He's got a family. He's got a girlfriend that's got a daughter.
Yeah,
he's moved on. He's got a good job. And Doug's like, "Let's write a movie together.
Yeah,
let's write something together. We're better when we're together."
Yeah.
Henry's not for it at all. So Doug basically gets really drunk and leaves. And he basically leaves and goes straight to this press briefing for Caddyshack.
Yeah.
And embarrasses himself.
Yeah, and his parents are there. But he's surprised that he can't remember that he'd invited.
He begs them to come.
Yeah.
They're both there. He begged them to come because he was proud of this movie, I guess. But he'd forgotten that, and he embarrasses himself at this press conference by basically abusing the movie and everybody in it. He doesn't. He even gets kicked out of this presser.
Yeah, he passes out and gets carried out by Catherine and Chevy, doesn't he?
Yeah, basically after saying the movie sucks and it's a piece of shit. So he gets carried out, and he decides, right, I'm going to go on holiday with Chevy Chase. So they go to try and
trying to get clean, aren't they?
To get clean, reflect on their lives a little bit. And they manage 6 days clean without drugs.
Yeah.
And then Chevy's like, we need to get some drugs. We need some cocaine in this shit. So he calls his guy, and they smuggle some cocaine in tennis balls.
Yeah.
And they're like, we'll just do one ball. But you can hold a lot of cocaine in one ball.
You're
one
damn right,
ball.
Yeah.
But they do a lot more than one ball in the end. Then there's a really nice scene where Doug is talking to Chevy Chase, but he's got a towel over his head and his glasses over his towel.
Yeah.
And then Catherine walks in.
So whilst he's talking. I presume Chevy had left to go and work.
Yeah, so basically, Catherine walks in whilst he's talking to Chevy Chase. And then she says, Chevy left last night.
Yeah.
But he'd just been, he'd obviously been talking for like a day to Chevy, but he wasn't even there.
His tits off.
Yeah, exactly. Doug didn't even know that Chevy had left. She wants him to come home. She's like, look, this place isn't good for you. You need to come home. You can't be on your own.
She tells him, you have to decide yourself. Do you want to get better?
Yeah. She says to him, you need to talk.
People love you.
You need to talk to someone. She says, call Henry. You need to talk to someone. If it's anybody, call Henry.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He's left. She then leaves, goes home because he doesn't come with her. And he's left alone in his room. And there's a bit of a alone in the room montage of him just being in his own company, which is not a good thing.
He writes a few things. He's throwing a tennis ball against the wall, isn't he?
He writes the quote from the beginning of the film on a notepad, and then he goes for a hike. The housekeeper comes in. He says, "I'm going to go for a hike." Goes for a walk up the mountains, and the last time we see him, he's sitting on the edge of a mountaintop.
Yeah,
and we know instantly what's happening because we cut to Henry, who we haven't seen in this movie, apart from that scene in the bar, for an hour, maybe.
He takes a phone call.
He takes a phone call, and you know what's coming. His facial expressions as he's on this phone call that we don't hear are brilliant because he instantly becomes devastated.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to the mountaintop, and his shoes and his glasses are there.
I was genuinely, not knowing anything about Doug Kenney, I was genuinely like, oh crap, he's dead. I said, because you're fooled because the fact they've got this narrative device of an old Doug Kenney narrating it. And so you just don't assume going in with no knowledge. This really works for me.
It really worked for me.
I've got to say.
It's another one of those things that's been done for dramatic effect. Doug Kenney's official cause of death is accidental death.
Yeah.
Because the mountaintop, as he stood there, slipped away from underneath him and he fell. But nobody really knows the true story. But the mountaintop had broken away. Then we were instantly at his funeral.
And everyone is reminiscing about him.
Yeah.
And
the debate is, did he fall or did he jump? Yeah. They're all talking about that. Harold Ramis's quote of, he probably fell whilst he was looking for somewhere to jump, is a genuine quote from Harold Ramis.
Really?
It's what he actually, genuinely what he said.
And we've always got a sort of Christmas Carol thing going on here now, because old Doug is walking around the room.
Yes.
And is joined by young Doug.
Ghost Doug, basically. So Ghost Doug and narrator Doug are now
Ghost Doug, Way of the Samurai.
They're both now in the room, but nobody can see them.
No. And young Doug can't believe that all these people are there for him. Yes,
absolutely. And then narrator Doug says to young Doug, "Don't worry, because in a few years, people fucking love Caddyshack."
Yeah.
And it kind of changes his whole perspective.
Really
the smile reappears on his face.
He says, "Oh my God, you were loved by a lot of white people."
He says, people genuinely... I think he says people fucking love Caddyshack, and they're not afraid to tell other people that they love Caddyshack. Which changes the smile appears back on his face for the first time in ages.
And then he absolutely... I mean, his parents have given him a rough time. We've seen that.
Yeah, 100%.
Fuck me, does he have the last word in this narratively?
He really does.
Because they're weeping over his coffin.
Both of them, yeah.
And Ghost Doug says, "Well, you've got a matching set now."
Yeah. It's like, burn. It's a good job they couldn't hear him. That's
absolute
for sure.
Burn.
But his dad says, "I can't believe how loved he was."
Yeah.
Because this room is full of thousands of comedians. The best comedians in the world are all here. And then his dad breaks down, and he does break down over this coffin. And that's when Doug comes out with that line, which was brutal.
Yeah.
And he says, I spent my whole life just wanting to be happy. And then Henry shows up at the funeral. And Ghost Doug, goes up to Henry. Bearing in mind, obviously he can't see him. And he whispers in his ear, "This situation requires a stupid and futile gesture."
Yeah.
And Henry starts a food fight.
Yeah.
And maybe the best food fight in the history of cinema happens because everybody's involved.
It was brilliant.
Everybody's covered in food. And Doug's just standing in the background watching and smiling and enjoying this scene of futility.
I always think it must be so much fun to film something like a food fight.
Yeah.
Horrible to clean up.
Yeah, 100%. But you don't have to clean it up if you're a star.
You have to clean yourself up.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Matt Lucas was absolutely covered in cherry pie, but his whole face was covered in it. He took one, and you could see he didn't want to take it because he raises his arms and it kind of bounces off his shoulder. But he's already covered in it. It's very funny, and that's where the film ends.
Yeah,
that is your story of National Lampoon and how Doug Kenney became the funniest man in the world. What did you think of it overall, Nick?
I really, really liked it. Like, so much more than I thought I was gonna. And it was a much deeper movie than I thought I was going to get.
Yeah.
My preconception was we were going to get quite a light-hearted, sort of superfluous movie.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I bought into the joke.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I say, I've read a bit about this movie since, and genuinely there seems to be quite a lot of reviews and snottiness about... Well, they've done it wrong.
Yeah.
No one looks like that. It's stupid. It's puerile. But I was like...
Of course it is. It's
what you would have wanted.
Yeah. It's a film...
Judging from this and what I've read since.
The film should be called Stupid and Puerile. It's what National Lampoon was. I think it's a really...
I thought it was fascinating.
Absolutely. I think it's a really fascinating movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Considering we all know of my relationship with comedy movies. Again, I'm not really even a big National Lampoon fan, but I feel like now I've been educated and there is a gap in my movie knowledge there, which I need to fill in now. And yeah, I thought it was brilliant. I thought everybody in it was great. I thought Domhnall Gleason, his performance is outstanding.
Yeah. Will
Forte is brilliant. The guy who played the narrator is also brilliant.
Yeah.
All the way through, because some of his little one-liners are great. Matt Lucas, all of them. Natasha Lyonne.
Yeah.
John McHale is brilliant as Chevy Chase. It doesn't look like him, but you can fully believe, you knew who he was playing. Just by looking at him, you could tell that he was playing Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I went to bed last night thinking about this movie.
Yeah, it was a real pleasant
very
surprise.
rarely happens
and
on
it made me want to read about all these people.
Agreed. It absolutely did.
I literally was on Wikipedia.
Do not be surprised if I buy that book at some point that this film's based on.
Yeah, reading about Tony Hendra and
what happened to them? What happened to the National Lampoon brand?
Yeah.
Why did it just suddenly stop when Chevy Chase stopped making movies? Or did it stop because Chevy Chase stopped making movies? Or did Chevy Chase stop making movies because National Lampoon stopped? Who knows? But yeah, it's. I think it's brilliant. I honestly think it's brilliant.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
Genuinely, I think it's really, really good. I think Jordan has played a blinder with his wild card there.
Yeah.
I genuinely do. And it was a risk picking a comedy movie. But I think he's done well.
But there's just much more to it than I was expecting. It's one of the most pleasant surprises we've had on this show for a long time.
I didn't know anything. I didn't know he died until he dies in the film. And
same.
But it hit. It really hit when he did. Because you don't expect, like you said, you don't expect it because the narrator's an old man.
Yeah.
But
and when they even joke about how old Will Forte is playing,
they do make that joke. He's like,
Kenney. I was like, look, if you're in, go with the joke, you'll enjoy this more. If you went in and went, oh well, that's stupid, then you're gonna fucking hate it. But then you're not the right person to watch.
You're not the target audience for this movie. If you've never seen a National Lampoon movie or don't even know what they are, you're not the target audience for this movie. It's about people who want to educate themselves on who this guy was and why he's regarded still as probably one of the funniest men that ever lived. What's the best thing about it?
It's hard to single a couple of people out or a couple of things out.
It's the joke, isn't it?
It's
the way the film's made is the best thing about this movie.
The fact the whole thing is a fucking piss take.
Yeah.
Really.
Of all sorts of different genres of movie.
From casting, as in the casting in this movie to the wigs look shit.
Yeah.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
Doug's fake sideburns and...
Imagine being the guy who played Bill Murray and getting the phone call saying, do you want to play Bill Murray in this film?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't look anything like Bill Murray. And that's the joke. And it's really funny. And yeah, it works so well. And I think the writing of this movie is probably
it's the concept, isn't it?
Yeah, the concept and the way it's pulled off.
And
because it really works.
Doggedly stick to it. See it through to the end.
Yeah,
it's that, and then a real honourable mention for Domhnall Gleason, who I didn't even know was in this movie.
100%,
despite being the second biggest character in the movie.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Would you change anything? What would you change about it? Not a lot, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think it was about right in terms of pacing.
Yeah, it moved really quickly, but it kind of needed to.
Yeah. I haven't got too many criticisms.
No,
I felt like it is really nitpicky that maybe could we have done a bit more on Doug's depression, but then it would really, I don't think it would have. I think they did enough for us to get that. I think it hit
those beats quite nicely because it was still funny, but also you knew what this guy was going through.
Yeah.
But
it becomes a different movie if you then really go a bit deeper on.
Maybe we could have done a bit on where Henry ended up and where he left.
Yeah,
where he went to. Because years passed between.
I think this might have been a movie from my uneducated knowledge of these people that it might have. Maybe it would have been nice to have that sort of where are they now bit at the end of this.
Yeah,
so like Henry Beard went on to write several books.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Who were the rest of these people, and are they still alive? And if they're not, what happened? And
maybe that would have been a nice little bookend.
That's a good shout. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Stream table.
Oh man, this is this could be tricky.
It could be. Am I reading top 10? It's definitely top 10.
It's top 10 for me, yeah.
So currently number 10 is The Cleanse. Currently number 9 is You Are Not My Mother. Number 8 is The Giver. Number 7, Double World. Number 6, The Legacy of a White-tailed Deer Hunter. Number 5 is Headshot. Number 4 is Below Zero. Number 3 is Nature Reborn. Number 2 is Old People. And number 1 is The Decline. What are you saying, Nick?
Oh, it's really tough.
I think it goes in one of two places.
I think this is... It's right. So I think it's top 5.
Okay.
I think it is absolutely a toss of a coin if this gets into the top 3.
Okay. That's really interesting to me.
I think it is so close. I'm looking at, because this is a wild card choice. Nature Reborn is a wild card choice, which is currently in 3rd.
Which is Ross Cook's wild card. And this has happened before.
They are totally different.
Oh, yes, they couldn't be more different.
But both really good movies. And I don't think this quite gets into the top 2 for me.
I find that really interesting because this is a comedy movie. This has happened before. Ross and Jordan have had this battle that we've narrated before.
Honestly, whether it's me, is it 3rd or is it 4th?
Can I tell you where I am with it?
You're going to want it top.
No.
Oh, okay.
I think it's yes. I think it's a debate whether it goes 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
I think it's better than Old People.
I don't know really how we quantify that.
No, nor do I. We quantify it in the way we always do. If you had to watch one again, which one would you watch? And that's a no-brainer. Even for me to say that as a comedy film against a horror movie, that's got to mean something.
But I think what's holding me back on this is I feel like I can think of loads of people who wouldn't like this movie or wouldn't get the joke or wouldn't want to get the joke because it's just not there.
Agreed. I can also think of a lot of people that wouldn't like Old People.
I know.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, it is. I
don't like to do this to Ross.
Something's just holding me back, and I just, for me, it's 3rd or 4th, which is still brilliant. I don't think it quite touches the top 2.
Okay,
for me,
that's fine. So what we have to decide now is who wins the wildcard race. Simple as that. Does Ross Cook's film go into 3rd, or does Jordan Shenton's film go into 3rd? And that would decide the wildcard film for this season.
It's paper thin.
I personally, and I'm going to get hate for it, and I know I am, I think this is a better film than Nature Reborn. And I feel terrible for it because Jordan has pipped Ross at the post more than one time before.
I feel like I am more leaning on Nature Reborn is an artistic achievement. It looks beautiful. It's a great piece of world building. It's an exotic.
The thing that goes in Nature Reborn's favour is that there's other films in that same universe.
Yeah.
But then you could argue there's films in this universe. This is really tough. This is the hardest battle we've had all season.
For me, it's just below, but there's nothing in it.
Okay.
There's nothing in it. But my slight preference is Nature Reborn.
Okay.
I'm just going with my gut.
Okay.
Really.
I want it on the record that I would have put it higher, but I am happy.
Would you have put it 2nd or 1st? Or you're not sure?
I would have put it... I don't know. I was prepared to have that argument, but if you're not that high on it, then that's fine.
No, I loved it.
Yeah, same. And I think it's the only film this season where I can say I loved it. I think there are...
I can see me watching this again.
Yeah, same, 100%. The Decline and Old People and Nature Reborn to an extent, I really liked those movies. I think they're all great movies. But I think this is the first time where I can say I loved that movie this season.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's
it doesn't.
It doesn't. A better movie. Yeah. Okay.
At all.
Fine.
4th.
That my gut is telling me 4th.
Okay. I'm fine. I would like it on the record that I would have gone higher, but I'm prepared to go with that.
Oh, you're an absolute gent.
Well, that's the first time that's been said. Also, I don't really want to get accused of gaslighting you again. So, 4th.
I was not expecting that we'd be talking about a movie in the top 5, let alone.
I didn't expect
consideration of the top 1.
I'm not going to lie to you, Nick. I thought because of just who we are, This argument should have been the other way.
What, they'd have been fighting it really hard.
Yeah.
But they're good movies, those are the three. I'm just trying to look at it a bit objectively, and I just think Nature Reborn looked amazing.
Yeah, it did. It's beautiful.
How can you compare two things so different?
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why the table's there.
4th, decided. Well done, Ross Cook, on winning the season's wild card.
That's one of the... Everyone else's choices aside, because
everybody else was shocking.
Sam did a terrible choice.
Yeah.
That is a paper-thin choice, honestly.
Yeah.
That's really tough.
Yeah. Sorry, Jordan. You came close, but no cigar. Right, should we pick next week's film?
Let's do it. 2 left this season.
Penultimate film of the season.
Yeah.
What do you want from the penultimate film of the season?
What have not we had for a while?
Sorry, Yoda?
Sorry.
What have not we had? Don't know. Should we just see what comes up?
I'm still trying to process Domnhall Gleason in that movie.
Ready?
Yeah.
It has picked a movie called Blasted.
Okay.
Any ideas?
I think I remember adding it to the long list.
Okay.
It's a fairly recent Netflix movie, I think.
It is from
is it
2022. Yes, it is Norwegian.
Oh, awesome.
Would you like a synopsis?
Yes, please.
So it's from 2022. IMDb describes it as an action comedy sci-fi. It says,
good for me.
When a former childhood friend crashes Sebastian's bachelor party and makes it all about himself, only an alien invasion can make them put aside their bad blood and reunite as the kick-ass laser tag duo they once were.
Laser tag alien fighters.
Laser tag alien fighters.
I know it's only a synopsis, but it does give me a bit of a Edgar Wright.
Yeah, it does feel very Edgar Wright, doesn't it?
Vibe.
I'm with you there. 4.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Okay, maybe not so great.
But yeah, go out and watch Blasted. That will be your penultimate film of season 8 of Bottom of the Stream. And in the meantime, whilst you're doing that, go and head over to Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. Our username is the same. It is at BOTS_podcast. If you want to drop us an email, our email address is bottomofthestream@gmail.com, and our website is bottomofthestream.com. On the website, you will find every episode we have ever recorded, all of the stream tables, loads of other cool stuff, and you can even get some merch if you want to buy a Bottom of the Stream
pencil and pen.
Pencil and pen. Blankety blank. After you've done that, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/bottom of the stream. On there, for a couple of quid every month, you will get early access to episodes. You will get bonus episodes. You will get a newsletter that Nick writes occasionally. You will get a wild card if you come in at the top level, which means you can do what Jordan Shenton has just done and fail to win the wild card race. And then after you've done all of that, head over to Discord. The Discord is a community of wonderful, like-minded, movie-loving people who will chat to you about absolutely anything. We play games, we do watch-alongs. We've got loads of plans for the Discord over the next few months. It's going to be lots of fun. And the Discord link will be in the bottom of the show notes.
When he says anything, he means anything.
Anything.
If you can spare a few minutes, please consider leaving us a review or a rating anywhere you can review or rate podcasts. We're on all of those places, and those places are places like Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora. There's loads more. Come find us. We're there. We're waiting.
I put us on a new one.
Amazing.
In the week. It's called Listen Notes.
Listen Notes.
Listen Notes. And I also did an interview with them.
Oh, brilliant.
So that might be coming out at some point.
Fantastic.
I'll tell you about that afterwards. Because it sounds a lot more exciting than it was. But yeah, check us out on Listen Notes if you want to. Yeah, do all of that. Go out and watch Blasted. And we'll be back on Monday for another episode of The Wave and next Thursday for the movie show.
Cheers.
Bye.